back at home. All right. We honor you today. I know that today, for many is a joyful day. It's a time to celebrate and laugh and just feel appreciated. And I pray that you do. Guys, if you didn't know it was Mother's Day, call your mom and talk to her. This is the day to do it, The truth is, for others, I know that it can also be a hard day, a reminder of maybe what you lost or maybe what never was. Maybe you're grieving a mother today or the dream of being one. Maybe there's just pain in your story. And so today, whoever you are, whether it's a mom or a stepmom or a foster mom or a spiritual mom or a hopeful mom or a grieving child, know that you're seen, you are loved, we recognize you, you matter more than you could possibly know. And I pray that today is a day for you especially. One of the easiest traps for us to fall into is this kind of comparison game. We look around and we think, I should really be further along by now. Or I wish I had more time with my kids, maybe if you're a working mom. Or I wish I had kids. Or, man, she just makes it look so easy. You got those superhero moms that just do everything and you feel like maybe that you can barely get through the day. But here's the truth. You don't actually need to have more. You just need to pour out what you already have. And when you do, God will do more than you could have ever imagined. He will. What you have to pour, whatever it is, as small as you may think it is enough. It's actually more than enough when you place it in God's hands. And that's really the heartbeat behind what I want to talk about today, is just simply that women, you matter. We need you. Your life matters. And your oil, whatever it is that you have to give is more than enough. There's a story in Acts chapter 9 that I want to read. It's in verse 36, and I've actually never preached on this before. I've been preaching for a long time, and I've never preached on this story, but I was reading it several weeks ago, and it just jumped out at me, and I wanted to kind of pause our Sermon on the Mount series to talk about this today. It's in Acts chapter 9, verse 36. It says this about this lady, Tabitha. Now, there was in Joppa a disciple named Tabitha, which translated means Dorcas. That's an unfortunate name right there. Don't name your kid that, please, guys. She was full of good works and acts of charity. In those days, she became ill and died. And when they had washed her, they laid her in an upper room. Since Lydda was near Joppa, the disciples, hearing that Peter was there, sent 2 men to him, urging him, "Please come to us without delay." So Peter rose and went with them. And when he arrived, they took him to the upper room. All the widows stood beside him weeping and showing tunics and other garments that Dorcas, Tabitha, made while she was with them. But Peter put them all outside and knelt down and prayed. And turning to the body, he said, "Tabitha, arise." And she opened her eyes. And when she saw Peter, she sat up. And he gave her his hand, and he raised her up. Then, calling the saints and widows, he presented her alive. And it became known throughout all Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. And he stayed in Joppa for many days with one Simon, a tanner. Today I want to tell you about 5 women. 5 women. First one is this lady, Tabitha. Tabitha was a woman, it says, known for doing good and helping people. She was known for her good deeds and her charity. This lady didn't have a microphone or a platform. There was no ministry to her name, no business that she owned that we know about. We don't know whether Tabitha was married or not. We don't know if she had kids or not. We know that she was known for doing good deeds and charity. Tabitha had a needle and a thread, and so she made clothes for widows. The widows were those that people could often just kind of ignore, or maybe not on purpose, but just because of life. If their husband died, and especially if they didn't have children, they would be really left destitute. They couldn't go get a job. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for them. And so somebody had to care for them. That's why the book of Acts and throughout the New Testament, it talks a lot about the church caring for orphans and widows. Tabitha was this kind of person. She cared for widows. She made them clothing. She was there for them. And then she passed away. The people, they couldn't believe it. I mean, this affected them greatly. Tabitha was this person that they obviously looked to. They laid her in this upper room and they sent for Peter to do something about it. Jesus has just raised from the dead himself, and so they don't know, like, is Tabitha going to just come back to life? What's going to happen? Go get Peter. Let's see if something can take place here. We need Tabitha. You can imagine that room filled with people, with all of these widows, showing Peter when he arrives the clothing that Tabitha had made for them. I love that image. Now, if you've ever been in a room before, or you've lost a friend, or you've been in just a celebration of somebody that you're recognizing a friend or a family member, and you're talking about all the amazing things that they've done, I just picture that room filled with people, and they're telling stories about Tabitha. Oh, she made this for me. One time I was having a bad day, and then Tabitha showed up. I think about Phyllis Breeze making blankets for all of those babies that we have here. Just sewing and knitting things. That means something. It matters. Tabitha mattered to God. She mattered to these people, and she mattered so much that she was about to experience new life. These women, these people, they gathered in that room, and through Peter, God raised her from the dead. But what I want you to see is that what brought resurrection to that place wasn't just grief. No, it was the evidence of the love that was being poured out in that place. See, you don't need a platform. What you need is presence. You need to understand how valuable you are to the people that are around you. How valuable, how what you say and what you do matters so much. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you that before, but I'm telling you right now, it means something. And if nobody else sees it, God does. It matters. Your kindness, your service, your care, it leaves a mark on people. In 2 Kings, there's another woman that we get to meet, and it's in 2 Kings chapter 4, in verses 1 through 7. We don't have time to read it, but I would love to tell you a little bit about her. She's a widow, and she comes to this prophet named Elisha, and she's completely desperate. You see, her husband has just died, and she's drowning in debt. The creditors are knocking at her door, and she goes to Elisha, and she says, "You don't understand. My husband has passed away. He's been a servant of the Lord, but I'm left with nothing, and now these creditors are going to come, and they're going to take my children away from me to go and to be slaves in order to pay back the debt." She's about to lose everything, literally everything. And so she goes to Elisha begging for help. And Elisha, he says, "How can I help? What is it that you have in your home?" That's what he says. "Tell me what you have in your home." And she says something that's really interesting. She says, "Nothing except for a jar of oil." Friends, that's not nothing, is it? She says, "Nothing. I don't have anything in my house except for a jar of oil." That's something. Small as it may be, it's something. That's not nothing. It might not look like much, but it's something. And in the hands of God, it's more than enough. See, Elisha tells her to go out and to borrow jars from all of her neighbors. He says, go get as many containers as you can. And it literally says, don't get just a few of them, get as many as you can. And bring all of these containers into your home, close the door behind you, and your boys, you fill these containers with that oil. He said, just pour it all out into these containers that you get from all of these people. And so that's what they do. They close the door and they start to pour this oil. They fill one jar, and then they fill a second jar, and a third jar, and a fourth jar, and it just keeps flowing out of her. This oil just keeps pouring. It just keeps on coming until the very last jar is filled. And she says, okay, bring me another jar. And her son has to say, we're out. We don't have any more jars. And it's only then that the oil stops. See, she thought she had nothing, but this woman had everything that she needed. In fact, she had more than enough. She had more than enough. My point is simply this to you moms, you parents, and caregivers that, see, you might feel like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, like you've got nothing more to give, that everybody expects something from you. And I just want to remind you that your oil is still flowing. See, it is in the meals that you make, and the diapers that you change, and the Band-Aids that you put on your kids, and the prayers that you whisper, and the bedtime stories, and the wisdom that you speak, and the encouragement that you give. It's in the love you give even when you feel empty, or the things you do for others without expecting anything in return. That's your oil. And there's more that God wants to pour out of you, and is already pouring from you. You just maybe haven't fully realized that it's not nothing. It's something, and it matters. All of those late night phone calls matter. All of those encouraging words matter. It all matters. There's another woman. This woman is different. She's known as being prominent in the Bible. It's in 2 Kings chapter 4, and it's in 8 through 37. Again, we don't have time to read it, but you can look it up a little later. The Bible says that this woman, she's a Shunammite woman. She's a prominent woman. She's got some wealth. She sees the prophet Elisha passing through her town one day, and she decides to do something extraordinary. This woman actually builds a room onto her house so that Elisha has a place to stay, somewhere that he can rest. This Shunammite woman, she's not pouring out of desperation. No, this woman's pouring out of generosity, of hospitality, of vision, of care, out of what she has. Elisha is so moved by what she's done for him that he asks her one day, hey, what can I do for you? And just like every woman I know, oh, nothing, I'm good. I don't need anything at all. And Elisha's like, you're lying. You need something. Everybody needs something. Gehazi, Elisha's servant, he says, well, what I can tell you, Elisha, is that she doesn't have a son. She doesn't have a child. You see, there was this deep, unspoken ache in this woman that money couldn't pay for. She wanted a child. Sometimes there's dreams in us that are too old to even speak aloud, things that we've given up on even saying that we wanted or needed anymore. And so Elisha prophesies over this lady. He says, by this time next year, you'll have a son. And the lady's like, don't do that. As in, don't get my hopes up. That dream has long died. But sure enough, it says that that same time, the year following, that that woman held her son right in that very room. You see, little did she know that that room that she had built would become a nursery. And later, when her son dies suddenly and unexpectedly, she runs back to Elisha. Elisha comes to her home. He lays on top of the boy. The mom had brought the son into that very room, laid him on the bed. Elisha walks in and prays over the boy, lays over the boy, cries out to God for God to raise him up. And sure enough, God raises the boy from the dead in that very room that she had built. It became a miracle room. You see, she thought she was building a room for a prophet, but what she was building was a room for resurrection. What she was building was a room for new life, for God to do something special and miraculous. My point is, sometimes, church, the oil that we pour out is preparation. It's vision. It's faith. We pour it out in a way that we don't know the results that we're going to get, but we pour them out trusting God that he's going to do something with that oil. Amen. Maybe it's a room in your house, or maybe it's a moment of encouragement. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's a space at your table or a text to somebody that's hurting. See, we can't get so hurried and distracted by just the day-to-day demands and the day-to-day stuff that we all have to do that we forget to make room for what God might want to do in the moment. Of just simply being present with our kids, with our friends, with our spouses. I just wanted to remind you to make room in your schedule. Make room in your budget. Make room in your heart. Make room in what you give your attention to, because it's when we make room that God can move. Amen. That God can fill that space with what he wants to do. But if we're not willing to make room, where can God enter into? I think so many of us, we keep a schedule that's so tight, there's not room for God to move within it. I'll just let that sit for a second. We keep a schedule that's so tight, no margin, so demanding. Where could God move within it if he wanted to? We're doing so much. See, but the truth is, you never know when that room that you're building will become the very place where new life can be born and resurrection can happen, where God can speak fresh words and new insights, that he can encourage you and give you peace and comfort and refill you with joy and vision and wisdom that you need to navigate all the busyness that happens every day. We just simply make room for it. There's another woman in 1 Kings chapter 17. Elijah meets this woman. She too is a widow, and she's about to make her last meal. Elijah walks up to her and finds her gathering sticks. He asks her for some bread, and she says, Elijah, I don't have any bread. In fact, me and my son, we only have a little bit of flour and a little bit of oil. And we're going to make one last meal, and then we're both going to starve to death because we don't have anything left. But Elijah says, make some bread for me first, and that jar of oil will not run dry. That flour will not run out. And this woman amazingly believes him, believes that it actually is a word from God, a promise from God. That if she'll use what she has for the Lord, if she'll place it in God's hand, then he'll make some way, somehow, he'll make where it doesn't run out, where she has enough. Amen. And so that's what she does. She pours her last bit of oil. Only the oil never stops. It doesn't run out. She has enough. She has more than enough. It keeps lasting her all the way through the famine, all the way through. She has everything that she needs for her and her son to live. You see, when she gave what she thought was her last, she discovered it was actually just the beginning of what God was about to do. She thought that their lives were over, but as the oil flowed, new life poured out. God was doing something there. Each of these women, they poured out what they had, and when they did, God did a miracle. Tabitha was raised from the dead. The widow's debt was paid off in full. A child was born miraculously. And a meal became a miracle. God provided. He saw them. They mattered. And he met those needs time after time after time. These women mattered. See, this is what God does when we pour our oil. He brings new life. He brings resurrection. He brings miracles from it. Through our obedience, through your small acts. He brings miracles. He brings life. And oftentimes it's what looks like the end is where new life begins. When it looks like things are over, that's when God has room to do something miraculous. There's one last lady that I want to tell you about. She pours out her oil here in this house, week after week. She has served faithfully in our nursery for years. Actually, even before I became pastor here, she was serving kids. She started serving and working with the children's shelter back when it was open, just pouring her life into kids. She works now at CCO Kids during the week as well. She gives her life to serving children, many of whom aren't her own, but she loves them like they are. And her story is amazing. Many of you know Karen Jones. What you may not know is that years ago, Karen lost her teenage daughter. Her name was Sabrina. I'm sorry, can we turn off the live stream, please? Sorry.